President Trump announced on Truth Social that he will suspend bombing in Iran for 2 weeks. This after Pakistan's prime minister called President Trump to extend his deadline, which was set for 8 p.m. Eastern. So Trump wrote in part this plane. Aaron, what can you tell us about the ceasefire? You know, we had you scheduled to talk about a looming deadline. Now we're talking about a ceasefire. Where do things stand now in the talks?
Yeah, this is a very fluid situation. So you have the president saying that he will agree to a 2-week ceasefire provided that Iran reopens the Strait of Hormuz. You've also seen just in the recent minutes, I mean, this is all coming together very quickly, the Iranians essentially agreeing to do so, but the devil is in the details here. What does it mean to reopen the Strait of Hormuz? The Iranian foreign minister in his statement said that the Iranians will reopen the Strait of Hormuz provided that ships coordinate with Iran's armed forces and subject to technical details. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean that Iran gets to approve every ship that goes through the Strait? Is the United States okay with that as a definition of the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz? To me, the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is the international channels in the middle of the Strait are open to anyone who wants to travel through them. They are treated as international waters. This kind of question is going to be playing out in the hours, maybe days to come.
I imagine that's going to get pretty tricky and pretty sticky, because what exactly does that mean, opening the, what does a reopening exactly look like, and just how safe is that?
Right, so there's the safety issue as well. You can reopen everything, but then you got to encourage this shipping to actually come back into the channel. There are insurance issues with that. There have been reports of mines in the water. So there's that, and the whole economic question as well. But if you kind of picture this strait, the way that ships normally go through it is right through the middle. There's a channel through the middle that ships treat as international waters, and they pass freely subject to what are, in effect, traffic regulations. What's been happening since the start of March is Iran has been shooting at ships in the Strait of Hormuz, but also on the Gulf and the waters on either side, and forcing ships to go on a channel on the northern edge of the strait, so essentially along the Iranian coastline, with their approval. There's been some speculation that they're charging money for this, and obviously a lot of Iranian oil traffic has been getting out on that route as well. In their minds, does opening the Strait of Hormuz mean that everyone can come through provided they use their channel and get their approval? That's not clear sitting here with you at this precise moment in time, nor is it clear that the United States would actually accept that as a good faith fulfillment of the conditions they agreed to meet.
So let's talk about this real operation deadline. Was it really a negotiating tactic, or was it a real operation deadline where come 8 p.m. things were going to happen?
Well, you know, the president is a deal maker. That's his conception of himself. That's how he's sold himself to the American people. And it's been pretty clear, I think, for the last few weeks that he would like a diplomatic way out of the situation he was in. He didn't want to go in and do convoy operations in the Strait of Hormuz, because those operations, once you start them, aren't necessarily going to have a clear end date. You kind of have to do them until the Iranians let you off the hook at some point, or the Iranian state collapses. He also considered this option beginning at 8 o'clock tonight, had negotiations not led to some sort of fruitful consequence, to launch a campaign against economic targets in Iran that would have been extremely painful for the Iranians, led them probably to retaliate against economic targets in the region to a greater extent than they already have, and essentially been an escalatory step all around. That would have done nothing in the short term to solve the economic pain. It may in time have punished the Iranians so severely that they would change their minds about opening the strait, or indeed led to conditions of Iranian state collapse, at which point they wouldn't be able to close the strait anyway. But that's a painful round of escalation to go through if you've got your eye on markets and your eye on global confidence.
You know, we all were led on this journey, this ride, and a scary one at that, using this bombastic language from the president, as some might call it, and now kind of a pullback. Now we have a ceasefire, and we have a break for Iran to make a deal, and for President Trump to talk with allies and get things moving along. I'm curious, was this kind of a midnight deadline, 11th hour turn of events, or did you see this kind of taking shape possibly yesterday and into today and in the last hours?
Well, the Pakistani mediation has been underway for some days now, and then the critical moment was this afternoon. You saw that tweet on X from the Pakistani Prime Minister, essentially outlining the terms that now appear to be the operational terms of this ceasefire. 2 weeks. Iranians are very savvy, very difficult negotiators to be across the table from. So I'm not sure the ride has really stopped, to be honest with you. I think we're still on this ride. This administration approaches military action and diplomatic maneuvering as kind of two sides of the same coin. So really anything could happen over these next 2 weeks, and the Iranians are going to be looking for maximal success at the negotiating table. Again, I think you see that literally right now with them right out of the gate trying to renegotiate the terms of what does opening the strait even mean.
Yeah, how could this affect oil supply? Where do things stand?
Well, the thing is, there's been a fair amount of damage already done to oil supply, but also natural gas and all the other kinds of commodities that come through the strait. We have about a month of stoppage so far, if not stoppage, then choking it off to the extent where it is effectively a stoppage as far as global markets are concerned. You've not seen that, I think, fully reflected in the prices yet. So there's some, even if everything were up and running at full scale tomorrow, there's still this, whatever the opposite of a bulge is, there's this gap in the global energy supply that's going to need to work itself out in the weeks to come. In the 1970s, the oil shock, the embargo only lasted for a limited period of time, but the economic effects cascaded for some time thereafter. So we have to see, on the assumption that things get up and going again swiftly, what the consequence of this month of shortage will be. But again, it's not totally clear to me that we are out of the woods, or to use your metaphor, off this